Hello, this is Dr. Harrington, and we're on Lecture 6, page 3, the standard form of a quadratic function. Now, the standard form is going to be y is equal to a times x minus h quantity squared plus k. Now, the neat thing about the standard form is that you can just look at it and see what's going on. You can see the shift, the translation, the scalings, the whole 9 yards. It's very simple to graph. It's simple to know what's going on, the whole behavior, the whole 9 yards. It's even easy to see the vertex. So these two little guys actually are the vertex of it. So we see that the vertex is simply going to be h comma k. Now the one thing to note here is it's the opposite. See, this is a negative, and then the k is exactly the same. So the k's match, and then the h's is going to be the opposite. We can graph this in standard forms very simply. But what if it's not? So here's an example. I have negative x squared plus 6x minus 6. Now this is not in standard form. Now the trick to this is I'm going to complete the square. So the trick is really just completing the square. I'm going to complete the square. If you have issues with completing the square, please come see help. It is a pre-calc review, so it's not really done in the textbook at all because it's pre-calculus. But if you need help with it, please go to the Broward Help Center, your SI, post the questions on the discussion boards. Just please get help if you have a problem remembering that. It might have been a while since you've done completing the square. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do the first one in painstaking detail just to kind of recap your memory about what completing the square is all about. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I have f of x is equal to negative x squared plus 6x minus 6. Okay. First thing I want is I want just a 1 in front of the x squared. So if I have a 2 or a 3 or a negative, I want to get rid of all that. I want to factor that from out of the first two terms. So I have f of x is equal to negative quantity x squared minus 6x, and then I have this minus 6 out here. Okay, now this is the trick about completing the square. Let me write this out. I'm going to have f of x is equal to minus, and I have x squared minus 6x, and this is the trick. I'm going to put two numbers down here, minus 6. So what I'm going to do is, for this little guy, I'm going to take that term there, divide it by 2, and square it. So I have negative 6 over 2 squared, which is the same thing as just saying 3 squared. So I'm going to add 3 squared to this, okay, by taking the middle term, dividing it by 2, and squaring it. Now, I can't just go around adding things wherever I want. I also have to subtract off the 3 squared. Okay, so now I have f of x is equal to negative quantity x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus 9 minus 6. Now you'll notice that this little guy factors. So I want to get this 9 outside. So I have f of x is equal to negative, and I'm going to write that as x squared minus 6x plus 9. Okay, now this is something tricky. You got to remember that this minus sign, when I pull it out, distributes. So that's going to turn into minus minus, so that turns into the plus 9 minus 6. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have f of x is equal to, now this factors, so now I have minus, and that turns into x minus 3 quantity squared, and then these two terms turns into negative 9 minus 6 is just plus 3. So these two little guys here turns into the 3. Now that is our standard form. So we have standard form is going to be f of x is equal to negative quantity x minus 3 squared plus 3. Now remember what I said about standard form. It is so much easier to look at. Notice here it's just x squared, shift it to the right 3 units, flipped across the x-axis, and then move up 3. So the vertex is going to be 3 and it's actually taking the opposite of this first guy here. And the second one is this value here, whatever that is. Okay. And then to graph, first thing you do is you're going to shift just x squared 3 units to the right. So again, if I just go over 3 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to put it down there. It's The second thing I'm going to do is reflect across the x-axis, reflect across the x-axis. Again, this is the x-axis here. And the last thing I'm going to do is shift up. Shift 3 units up. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to have is x squared. It's going to kind of come down here. This is x squared. Okay, I'm going to shift it 3 units to the right. 1, 2, 3. So it's going to come down here. Something like that. There's going to be x minus 3 squared. I flip it down. So that's minus x minus 3 quantity squared. And then lastly, I shifted up 3 units. So 1, 2, 3. Now what's important to note is that that's going to be your actual vertex, which is 3, 3. So you can check 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It matches. Everything works out good. And now let's see here. It's going to go down. Oh, and by the way, the y-intercept is negative 6. The only thing you can really tell from this thing is the y-intercept. You can just look at it. It's negative 6. So it's going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to come down. And then, of course, by symmetry, whatever you do on one side, it's going to happen on the other side. So what I have in red is the actual graph. This is going to be y is equal to negative x squared plus 6x minus 6.